Hey, guess what?
What?
I'm hungry. How do we make food on the trail? I'm hungry.
Let's go into some cook kits.
Oh, good.
Hi, welcome back. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. I'm Joe, this is Jocelyn, and today we're going to cover some portable and scalable cook kits. Now, Jocelyn's...
This is mine. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a lot of pieces, but this is so I can spread it out over. If you look at this, this is actually my stove. It's in a little envelope, nice and flat, so it does not take up much space at all. But, I have lots of pieces, and it takes a minute for me to put it together.
Over here, what you see me taking apart is a nice small cook kit that's got what I like to call the IKEA hobo stove in it. And the key here is this amazing hobo stove that's actually just a large restaurant style silverware drainer that I've taken some tin cutters and cut a small opening in so I can light my fuel in there, whatever that might be. Now it can be used two different ways. If I set it down this way over a fuel source, it makes a great little grill that's great for balancing a large pot on or a small pot, either way. If I'm going to use it as a debris stove, I'll actually add some small legs here that are 1/4 bolts and a couple of nuts so that it doesn't sit directly on the ground. And I can boil on my big pot fairly easily. But if I'm going to use my small one, well, you got to have some tent stakes. So I'll just put these in. See if I can get that the right way. There we go. They kind of make, and I will show you this, just a small angle in there. And you can then set your smaller pot on there and cook nicely. So that covers some stoves, but what about fuel sources?
The good thing about these, as you can see, is, like Joe said, they're scalable. I can carry my own pot, Joe can carry his own pot, but if we need something bigger, we also have this, which his whole cook kit fits into this bigger pot, which is nice. So then here's my debris stove. It has 4 solid sides, and then it has the opening in the center, and then on the bottom you have the holes where you can have your airflow, which works really well. Now, I am not very proficient on putting debris on that's inside to start my fire. That's something I will be working on. But other things that you can use are your candle. Now, we did do a short on how to make these candles on our channel. Or you can use a transient stove.
Or any other solid fuel, most famously S-bits, but any kind of solid fuel or fire starter. Now, one thing, if you're going to use the alcohol stove, or in our case it's a real transient, it won't fit quite right. I mean, it wants to, but it's just not going to go. So you got to drop it in from the top, and you would then light it. And we typically use a fire steel, and setting the cross beams in. Now you have to be kind of quick with that so you don't burn your hands. So
please don't let me burn my hands.
You want to do that before your alcohol stove goes to full bloom. If you're lighting an S-bit or anything else like that, you can actually do it from the front. You can probably light this fairly easily from the front or with the cross beams on it as well.
So then you have your cross beams on your top so that your little pot can fit on there nicely, or still the big pot can. Now, wait for this spring, because once we can get outside and start doing some stuff, I am going to start working more with this debris stove, so it might be a comedy of errors this spring.
The nice part about these kits is you end up with these nice multi-fuel stoves that are very easy to assemble. Let me actually show you here. That's all we do is just some simple 1/4 nuts and bolts.
And then it just raises it up.
That'll actually lift this and allow that airflow from the bottom when you're using it as a debris stove.
Now, the only difference with this, if you see all the holes you have all the way around, something that you might need to do is make sure that you have a way to put a
windscreen.
Windscreen around it.
Now,
we're actually going to be making one because, as you see, yeah, we kind of need one for this one.
And we've been pretty good with this because we generally, when we're cooking with it, we just put this down into a rock ring or anything like that. But having just a foil windscreen would definitely help. Now, this is a kit, And Jocelyn did say how I carry everything. Well, everything comes down to, I have some comfort items in there, which I have some Propel water, some tea, some coffee, just things to add to water. But the important stuff is a little piece of a green scrub pad and just a little bit of bandana. And I've got this one to dry with. You got to keep this stuff clean.
And the big thing is with these, you want to make sure you have your handle, but you need to have something also to lift this lid off because it does kind of get stuck and you don't want to reach down there and touch it because it gets really hot.
Tent stake can work for that too. Mm-hmm. Or we generally whittle a small utensil every time. It's kind of a habit. Yep. We make one a year and we generally carry it all year then.
Joe, that doesn't hold very much fuel.
No, it does not. And this is the downside to a Trangia or any other alcohol stove. A lot of your butane and propane stoves are actually easier to carry the fuel with because the fuel comes in a smaller canister. I prefer fuel that's easier to find, so I use a very special Gatorade bottle that I wrote fuel on, and that makes it special.
Oh, so special.
And I'm carrying enough to fill that Trangia 3 or 4 times with this.
Well, that looks like water. Are you sure it's water, not
no,
water?
It's actually heat.
Heat? It doesn't look hot.
Well, it's the heat that you put in your gas tank, which is an inexpensive and convenient way that you can get fuel for the alcohol stoves at just about any gas station, big box store, or farm store that you happen to come across, making this an ideal heat source and stove for a bug out bag.
There we go.
Now, scalability, if you're on a bug out, if this is your emergency bug out bag, you might not need to carry the 2-liter pot. So leaving that out, this becomes my kit. Just with my bandana around it and in the same bag.
Yeah, mine's still flat.
Jocelyn's kit actually folds down much flatter. So speed versus carrying. This one probably weighs a little bit more too.
But it also takes up a lot more room than mine does.
It does, except it also holds my pot, all of the cleaners, and my fire steel and a lighter to light it with. Mm-hmm. So your trade-off in space, you've got to make that decision. But I will tell you that either one of these, this is going to be your key if you have a larger group. You want to get yourself about a 2-liter bush pot of any stripe. There's a lot of good ones out there. This one, unfortunately, is no longer made. That's an old 3-dog stove pot.
But the main thing are your options. Think about what you want to do, how much you want to carry, how much you can carry, and how far you're going to go. Can you do something bigger? Do you need to do something smaller? It's more pieces, but it's more pieces in more places. You might not need this all the time. Actually, the candle won't even fit in there, so that might not work as a fuel source. So those are things to think about.
I think it will if we were to do this.
That works.
The candle will not fit through the front of that very nice, but you can light in there. Now, just a word about cooking over those candles. Mm-hmm. That is a last ditch.
Yep.
You're going to go through 2 or 3 wicks boiling just a little bit of 750 milliliters of water.
Yep.
That is your last ditch. That's not what you want to be depending on.
No.
But that candle will make it easy to light your debris, like whatever twigs or anything on fire, and pop in there.
But if you're going to use the debris, like I need to do, don't forget to practice. Because if you don't practice the skills, you lose them. Hmm?
You have got to build these kits for you. We've highlighted a couple of options here, and we've mentioned the compressed fuel stoves. Now, MSR Whisper comes to mind, and a few other very famous, very highly rated, terrific butane or propane stoves. You can, of course, do that, and you've really got to just weigh out your options on what you can acquire, how much fuel you can carry, and whatever you decide to do, you want to add a multi-use, multi-fuel stove. So the beautiful part about these is even if we don't have man-made fuel, we can always collect and dry small debris and twigs and everything else and have a fire inside that way. And we can still get our job done as far as boiling water or making quick food goes. So, would love to hear from you guys. Which method fits you? Are you going to use a more technological stove that maybe runs propane? Do you like the do-it-yourself approach?
Or do you like the lightweight approach? So coming up, we're actually going to show you some dehydrated meals that we are actually making to go camping this summer.
Because that way, we can make something like, oh, say, chili that you might have saw us dehydrating in our short by just boiling a little water in here. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. Go ahead and ring that bell so you don't miss these fun videos that are coming up.
Bye!
Bye.